$10,000 gone in 40 seconds, and the only thing Nathan Davis could think about, standing in that alley, blood on his face, hands completely empty, wasn't the pain, wasn't the money. It was the man he now had to go explain this to. Rico Delgado didn't do second chances. Everybody in South Central knew that. Nathan knew that. He just never thought it would matter. Because he never thought it would happen to him. They never do. Here's the thing about poverty that people who have never lived it don't understand. It isn't just about not having money. It's about watching time slip through your fingers. It's about knowing that you're going to work twice as hard as the kid across town and end up with half as much. It's about doing the math, the real math, and not liking the answer. Rico didn't have to explain much. Nathan was already doing that math. The pitch was simple. Move product, collect money, don't ask questions. The pay was more than anything Nathan had ever seen. Jerome said no immediately. "Man, look at him," Jerome told Nathan afterward. "Look at the people around him. Something about it isn't right." But Nathan had already started listening to a different voice. The voice that said, "Just this once. Just enough to get ahead. Just enough to matter." He said yes. The first few weeks felt like a dream. Nathan moved through the neighborhood differently. New shoes, new phone. He had cash in his pocket for the first time in his life. Real cash. More than he needed for dinner. He moved into his own apartment. Small but his. He sent photos to people. At clubs, at the beach, next to cars he borrowed for the weekend but let everyone assume were his. The world liked what they saw. The world rewarded him with attention. He met Slick, Rico's enforcer, a man who communicated in silences and controlled spaces just by standing in them. He sat in Rico's back office while music thumped through the walls and men counted money at a table. He told himself he was just temporary, just passing through. But the summer kept moving, the money kept coming, and Nathan kept telling himself he'd leave soon. He never set a date. 40 seconds. That's how long it took. 3 men stepped out of the shadows in a back alley on a Tuesday night. They knew exactly what Nathan was carrying and exactly how much, because someone who knew Nathan had told them. That's always how it works. There are no real secrets in that world, only delayed discoveries. In 40 seconds, $10,000 was gone. Nathan's face was bloodied. His hands were empty. And the worst part, worse than the pain, worse than the money, was the realization crashing over him like cold water. Rico was going to want that money back. There was only one door Nathan knew would open for him that night. He ran to Jerome's house and knocked. When Jerome saw him, face swollen, clothes torn, eyes full of a fear he'd never shown anyone, he didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't say anything for a long moment. He just stepped aside and let him in. He listened. That's the thing about a real friend. They don't celebrate being right. They just show up. Rico's warehouse was the kind of place designed to make you feel small. Concrete floors, cold fluorescent light, men standing along the walls who weren't there to talk. Nathan arrived late. Nathan arrived empty-handed. And Rico, sitting at the far end of a long table, looked at him the way a man looks at a problem he's already decided how to solve. The air in the room was completely still. And then the door opened again. Jerome Hayes walked in. He was holding a bank envelope. He crossed the room without making eye contact with anyone, and he set it on the table in front of Rico. $10,000. Every dollar he'd saved over 3 years of grocery store shifts. 5 in the morning, closing the store at night, holidays, summers, all of it. He didn't say a word. He just turned around and stood next to his friend. Rico walked them out himself. One last offer, right there at the warehouse door. The biggest shipment yet. The kind of money that could set them both up for years, he said. The kind of opportunity that only comes once. Neither of them spoke. They walked to the end of the block. They kept walking. They didn't look back. 3 months later, the story ended the way these stories always end. Just not for the people who think they're the exception. A coordinated DEA sweep. Rico Delgado, Slick, 17 members of the network, arrested in a single morning. The Porsche was impounded. The house was emptied. The furniture, rented it turned out, was hauled away by a company that didn't ask questions. The whole thing made a brief paragraph in the local paper. Page 12.
Nathan sold his phone to pay rent. He went back to an older, broken handset, the kind where you had to hold the charging cable at exactly the right angle. He applied for a job at the grocery store. Jerome put in a word for him. He was hired. The work was unglamorous and predictable, and completely, blessedly safe. He stocked shelves. He learned the difference between the two types of long days, the kind that hollow you out and the kind that fill you slowly back up. Jerome paid himself back, slowly, a little from each paycheck. Nathan paid Jerome back, slower. It took longer than either of them expected, and neither of them kept score out loud. They don't talk about that summer much. When they do, it's always quietly, over coffee, or on the phone late at night, or when something on the news brings it back up. Here's what I want you to take from this. The trap was never the money. The money was just the door. The trap was the story Nathan told himself, that he was smarter than the people who got caught, that he was just passing through, that he had an exit planned. The trap is always that story. Rico had an exit plan too. So did everyone sitting in that warehouse. That's what made it feel safe. That's what makes it always feel safe, right up until it isn't. Jerome had nothing glamorous to offer. No Porsche, no office, no envelope of cash that made Nathan feel chosen. He had 3 years of grocery store shifts, saved dollar by dollar, and he spent every cent of it on a Tuesday night without being asked. That's the real wealth in this story. Not the Porsche, not the $10,000. The kind of friend who walks through a warehouse door with everything he has and stands next to you without saying a word. Most people spend their whole lives looking for that. Nathan Davis already had it. He just had to almost lose everything to finally see it.